As well, we're currently in a very tense moment with our closest neighbor, the United States of America. What position do they take about the potential creation of a new country on one of their northern borders? I don't think they'll be indifferent to the question about whether or not Alberta is able to create its own country, or whether its future might be better off in the United States of America.
Sometimes in life, at some point or another, we'll have bad relationships. Whether that relationship is an unproductive friend who's also a bad influence, an overbearing boss, or a girlfriend who's disrespectful, ungrateful, we've all been there. At some point, you outgrow a bad relationship. And it seems that's exactly where Alberta finds itself now. Today, it seems like Albertans are finally done getting screwed by a system which is purposefully designed to do just that: screw Alberta. It's been that way from the moment Alberta joined Confederation, and there's simply no desire to change it by those who benefit from it the most: Eastern Canada and the parasitic province of Quebec.
Are you willing to publicly denounce Alberta separatism and the Alberta separatist movement ahead of a possible referendum on Alberta independence next year?
Look, I'm against separation. I'm a born and raised Albertan. I love Canada. I think we need to unite this country. Albertans have a lot of legitimate grievances. I mean, let's be blunt. Canada's biggest industry, which happens to largely be situated in Alberta, has been under attack for the last decade. They've lost two major pipelines, a $20 billion mine. There's a new ridiculous energy cap that's going to drive jobs and production south to the United States of America. There's an industrial carbon tax that's going to kill the industry. And so, frankly, Albertans have a right to be frustrated. And I think the message to the government in Ottawa, the Liberal government, is you can't tell Alberta to just pay up and shut up. Albertans want to be part of a united Canada, but they deserve to be treated with respect, and they deserve to be honored for the immense contribution that they make to this country.
Fact is, many Albertans no longer want to be a part of Canada, no matter what any politician says. This guy here is Pierre Poilievre. He's the current leader of the Conservatives in Canada. He recently lost an election he was supposed to win against the Liberals, but Canadians, especially those in Eastern Canada, Ontario, Quebec, decided that after 10 years of economic decline, higher crime rates, and an increase in the cost of living, it was a good idea to re-elect the same people who created those problems to begin with. I'll tell you right now, though, Pierre is no Trump, and I don't mean that as a compliment. Quite the opposite. If he was more like Trump, he might have actually won. Trump worked twice as hard and was everywhere, in every podcast, and gave interviews to every single outlet. Pierre tried playing it safe, and it costed him. He even went as far as rejecting an interview with the #1 podcaster in the world, Joe Rogan. And then you have many Canadians wanting to blame Trump for Conservatives losing. But I'm not one of them. I blame the voters, the masochistic, self-destructive population which is so easily manipulated by the media that they willingly forgot how much worse Canada has gotten under the Liberals. Most of these stupid people happen to live in Eastern Canada, and Alberta's had enough of it.
It is looking a little bit more possible that separating from Canada could be in Alberta's future. Monday, they had a news conference. They proposed their referendum question. They asked the Premier to hold the vote in 2025. Here's Rath reading the proposed referendum question this week.
It states quite simply, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province of Canada, yes or no?
So how possible is an Alberta separation? I know it's a big question, but what's your sense of this in this moment?
Well, constitutions can be made and they can be broken. So, of course, it is a possibility that there is an exit out of Canada, and the road way off that out of this country is through a sovereignty referendum. You've got to get a positive vote, a clear majority on a clear question to separate. It appears that we're headed towards such a referendum. But if ever that were to happen, then the Supreme Court of Canada has said there's a constitutional duty for the rest of the Canadian provinces and the federal government to negotiate an end to the constitutional crisis it might mean the separation of a province.
How seriously should we be thinking about this, and what will you watch for to that end?
Well, I think there's no question it has to be taken seriously. I think it's very likely that there is a sovereignty referendum in Alberta in 2026. I think that's likely. And when that occurs, rhetoric is going to heat up. And of course, nobody knows the kinds of political dynamics that will be set in motion. As well, we're currently in a very tense moment with our closest neighbor, the United States of America. What position do they take about the potential creation of a new country on one of their northern borders? I don't think they'll be indifferent to the question about whether or not Alberta is able to create its own country, or whether its future might be better off in the United States of America.
Hey everybody, very quickly. If you're new to this channel, please do me a solid and hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps me a lot to continue making videos and bringing you the updates you care about. If you've been to this channel before, welcome back. Thanks for watching, and God bless you.
In 2021, I wrote No Other Option, Self-Determination for Alberta. Yeah, which is, that's my case for Alberta independence. So it's different from the other one in terms of presenting the case. And then I thought that would be my final book on the independence issue. But what I found was that people who would read No Other Option would say, yeah, it'd be good if Alberta became independent, but before we do that, we need to try and fix Canada first. And that really frustrated me, because Albertans have been trying to fix Canada for several decades. And it seemed to me many people had forgotten what we've done in the past to try and make things better in Canada. So the time to leave is specifically arguing that we have tried very hard, at least since the early 1980s, for Alberta to get its voice within Canada, and that everything that we've tried has failed, not because the people weren't trying hard enough or doing a good job, but because the political power in Canada is concentrated in central Canada, which is Ontario and Quebec, and they're not interested in what we have to say. They're not interested in our grievances with the central government, because they already have the power. They can completely ignore us and it makes no impact. And so that's what they have done.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because if you get Albertans to express the sentiment that they have had enough and that they do want to leave, whether or not that's to become independent, or whether it's to join the United States, it's the 51st state, it doesn't matter. Once you get across that threshold, then you'll find out what can happen after that. Maybe it will be a renegotiation of the terms of this country. I suspect that's not likely, but it's possible. Maybe they'll have to go the whole way and become independent. Maybe after they do that, they will think about joining the US or not. We are heading into the undiscovered country now. We don't know. But I've been trying to tell people, look, don't worry about looking too far ahead. The problem is the next step. And the next step is for Albertans to try to gather together enough of a critical mass of people and opinion that their future is no longer in the Canada that now exists.
All right, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Special thanks to those of you who have donated to this project. It is much appreciated, and it helps me continue making videos. See you on the next one. Peace.